everybody, welcome back to another episode of Motivate with Coach Camp. Of course, I am your host, Coach Camp, and we are here in these illustrious studios of SRP with Mr. Derek Show. All right, guys, here's what we're going to dive into today. So the premise of this whole podcast is to try to motivate folks, to try to maybe educate people at times, and then ultimately leave you with some thought-provoking moves that you need to do for yourself, or sometimes you just feel inspired by other people's stories. All of those things blend to hopefully building the platform that I've been working toward for so long now, and that is to motivate and inspire people, and then ultimately give you an escape for a few minutes from life. Well, today's episode is going to be centric on the idea of how do you stay intentional to your life. And this did come about from some recent events in my personal life and some other things that I've been contemplating. And so I'm going to be bringing you a solo episode. I want you to stick around. This is going to be extremely beneficial for you, your family, your friends. I know for a fact some of the things I'm going to say are going to resonate with you, and it's probably going to maybe even throw on some warning bells, that things that you might need to take care of yourself. And the reason I can say that with complete confidence is because that is what happened to me, and I'm taking my own good advice. So I'm going to ask you, hang on, stick around for just a second. I've got to send this off, say thank you to my sponsors that have helped this whole process actually be a reality. And we're coming up on a new year. So if you're thinking about, hey man, I'd love to be a part of this, I would love to have you on my team. So go to my website, motivatecoachcamp.com, and subscribe to that. And then hopefully I would love to have you come in as a sponsor. So I'm going to ask you, stick around for a second as I get a quick word from my sponsors. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to have a quick second to let you guys know how much it means to me that you are my sponsor. SRP Studios, The Real Hernando, The Rhythm Section, Hardwick, Heating, Cooling, and Air Quality, Estes, Grading, Hodge Homes, Adair, Honey Farm, Miss Hippie Eats, Phones R Us, Ross, Sod Farms and Landscaping, Ivy Rain, Women's Clinic, Tonic POS by Tyler Young, and Coffee Central. Thank you guys so much for being a sponsor. If you'd like to be a sponsor, go to my website now, motivatecoachcamp.com, and click on the button. Thank you. Welcome back, folks. All right, here we go. So I'm going to dive into something this week, and I'm going to title this A Healthy Life for Your Mind, Body, and Soul. And in order to have a healthy life, you do need to be focused on all three things: your mind, your body, and your soul. And in order to be able to be intentional toward all three of those things, you got to have some parameters, you got to have some perspective, and you really got to wake up every day, and you got to have a process. So let's hit that. I got to do this. I got to dissect this one piece at a time. So we're going to start with your mind. All right. It's easy to say that there is a mental health crisis in America. It's easy to say that. But when we dig a little deeper, we got to understand, why is there a mental health crisis in America? And I don't think that that's a far stretch to say that it is a crisis right now. You can go just about to any news outlet. You can do any research. You can do any kind of Google search, DuckDuckGo, whatever it is your search engine is that you go to, and you can find statistics that show that from one year to the next, that mental health issues have risen constantly. And that being from suicide to depression, anxiety, you name it, all of those titles that people like to give somebody and then end up ultimately putting them on some kind of medicine regime. All of those things have seemingly grown, and there's two reasons for that. One, population growth. Okay, so sometimes we get caught up in the numbers and we forget, yeah, there's this increase of folks, but there's an increase of people in the world. All right, that's fair to say. I can't speak about other places in the world so much as I can speak to here in America, and then even to my smaller circle, that being the Mid-South area that I worked as a paramedic for so long. People do struggle with all the same types of stuff that they struggled with many, many centuries ago. And that being the stress of life, whether it be from family members to being able to afford to live, from groceries to be able to eat. If you go all the way back 200 years ago, just shelter and fire and food and water, the simple things of life, that really hasn't changed that much if you think about it. I mean, we recently saw in the news constantly over and over, millions of people losing their SNAP benefits. And suddenly that became this crisis for people to be able to function on their regular, normal basis of food. And then, of course, whenever you have that stress, then you have the other areas of your life that you start to struggle with, and it becomes this mental block, and it is everything to you. I am not going down the road of should people be on these government assistance programs or not? That's not my business, nor do I understand enough about all of it to speak to it legitimately. But what I do know that I can speak to legitimately is this. We have to learn to be able to control our environment the best we can. Well, one of the things that has driven this, I think, this exacerbated amount of people with mental health issues is going to be our social media. That's not some profound statement. People talk about it all the time, but it's real. Well, what creates that? What makes it that? And it's simple. It is the constant feed. It is the constant thing. You think about this. If you took anything in your life, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is, and you did something constantly over and over and over and over and over, then something is going to come from that thing that you do over and over and over and over and over. Right? So if you take your fist, you pound on a brick wall, it doesn't take long before all of a sudden your hand starts to break. You start to have all kind of other arthritic problems, circulation problems, you name it. It's going to be constant. If you just did that one time because out of a moment of anger, whatever, you have some immediate pain, but then it will usually heal. So what I'm getting at is this. It is the repetitive nature of stuff. It is the constant, the drumbeat, if you will, that we put into our brains that will start to drain us from all of our energy, all of our ability to see clearly, all of our ability to stay positive, because the negativity is overwhelming. It's an avalanche of bad news. It's an avalanche of depression that starts to hit you instead of just a few little moments that you could easily heal from. It is a cacophony. It is constant, and it swarms you in your brain, and you cannot escape it. So think about that for just a second. When I'm talking about the mind, body, and soul, I'm specifically right now hitting on the mind. How do we control our outside environment to make our inside environment healthy? It's not that easy sometimes because everybody lives a different life. I do understand that. But here's what I know for a fact. We gravitate toward the things that we focus on. When you focus on something, and it doesn't matter what that is, you could put in any thing in that blank, put a blank here, whatever it is that you focus on, you will start to feed into that thing. You will start to become a part of that thing. It will start to consume you. Okay. It will swallow up all your thoughts. And if it is something that is negative and it is stress and it is worry and strife, that's going to damage you in ways that sometimes you're not even aware of. It will just suck the life out of you. Okay. So I'm going to use a few examples. I think everything in moderation for consideration can be important. It doesn't matter what it is. There are things you should be aware of. There are things that you can be concerned about, but it is the constant worry. And that's what I've started this whole conversation with. It is that constant drumbeat. So let's think about some of the things that we put into our lives that suddenly consume us. I'll start with the obvious. I've been talking about the obvious all along, actually. That is politics. Let's look at politics for a minute. Think about what politics might mean to you personally in your life. Politics could be something that you feel like is responsible for your well-being. Or maybe it's just against your ideology. Or maybe you feel like that in a political realm that they are going to attack the way of life that you're used to living. I am going to be honest with you. I am not saying that I haven't seen it that way at times, given certain circumstances. But what I started to realize, especially as I got a little older, was control the things you can control. So if you're constantly focusing on the politics of what someone else is saying that they believe in, don't believe in, or maybe some rule or policy they're putting in place, ask yourself, how much is that affecting you, actually your day-to-day life physically versus mentally? How much are you focusing on it? How much are you dwelling on it? How many times do you find yourself going through feeds or making comments to other people or making your own comments on some kind of social media site or doing some video because you want to speak out about something and think you have a voice on it? Or maybe you're standing, I'm just saying, maybe you're standing on a street corner with a sign. What difference are you really making in the real world versus what kind of damage are you doing to yourself and the people around you? Because people will feed off of your energy. Whether or not you realize it, all those folks in your life, in your circle, they're feeding off of the person you are. And some of us have bigger leadership personality traits than others. Said a lot of words. Slow it down, coach. Slow it down. Pause for dramatic effect. Why do I say a lot of words? Because I got a lot of things on my mind and my heart that I want to share. So let's look at this, dissect it a little more. Looking at the world of politics in particular, here's what I would say. It's okay to be aware. It's okay to be concerned. But unless you're going to jump into the fold and actually be the difference maker, run for office, lobby for someone else that you agree with to get into office, just stating your opinions on a regular basis does one of two things. It is going to constantly drain you of any other positive energy you could have, or even more so, other people could have. The other part that's usually not happening is you're not moving the opinion needle. Whatever it is your opinion is of anything, it doesn't matter what it is. The more that you gripe about it or you're hateful toward it, rather than actually just acknowledging something, stating maybe even possibly why you see something some way or not, versus constantly dwelling on it, the needle isn't moving much in anybody else's realm. They're usually fixated on the thing they believe in. If you wanted to have a meaningful conversation and actually have some discussion points to where a person's coming from so that you can better understand why they see things the way they see it, and then sometimes even question yourself as to understanding why you see things the way you see it, you end up just pouring poison into the well every time you turn around. That's one example. Let's look at life incidents. We're going to move past that now. So politics, that's one thing that drains people. And right now, it's easy to see that the political atmosphere that we're living in is constantly in your face. If you went back 50 years ago, you get a newspaper clipping, you get a couple of news reports, maybe you got like some kind of nightly news that comes on, and that's about all you're getting. Now it's a constant thing. It's a constant thing. And the news outlets are telling you why you should be offended or why you should feel better or why you should hate the other group. Dude, it's stupid. It's a mental disease is what it's causing. Get away from that crap. Be concerned, be informed, let it go. That's the bottom line. Second part, life incidents. Man, let me tell you about this. As a professor, I work with a lot of students that I know their lives are a vast array of issues. It could be anything. I've had students that have lost their house to a house fire in the middle of a semester, going through a divorce, dealing with life, death in a family, real moments, things that are hard hitting to your circle, to your day-to-day function. Man, hits right here. I have real life moments, real things going on, real illness, if you will. These things will drain you when you focus on it. Realize this, there's nothing wrong with having recognition to something and it causes you to feel grief, sadness, to even feel depressed at a moment. But what becomes the problem and what becomes the drain is that that's all that we can see. That's all that we can think about. And then all of a sudden, man, does that change your whole lifestyle? It changes your whole mood, your attitude towards living, towards being productive, towards pursuing. And whenever all those things start to get taken away from you, you ultimately damage the one thing that we all look for, and that is hope. Man, I hope you guys are still tuned in. I hope you guys are still following this trend, because right now what I'm hitting towards is all the mind things that wear us down as people. Then what does all that create? It causes worry and it causes stress and it causes us to have indecision, where something comes up and we need to make a decision on something, but we're scared to because all these other things have happened. And then we start to develop the mindset of, well, if I do this, then this is going to happen, because you already accept that whatever the next step is, it's going to be bad. Time and time and time again, I have been around those folks that it doesn't matter how good something is, they state how bad it could be. Their mind is fixated on how bad something can be versus how good something can be. Do you get where I'm going with this? So it is an intentional approach we have to take in order to grow and be healthy. I get it. I'm not discrediting any of the bad things that happen to people. Folks get diagnosed with cancer. Folks suddenly lose a family member unexpectedly. I could go down a long string of reasons why a person can be caught in a moment and it be overwhelming. That is life. I get it. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about the individual that has a handful of these things happen, but they never get past those things and they never see the good in life. They never see the possibilities in life. All they can see is the negative. Guess what starts to happen? That's all they see. Their perspective toward life never will get better. It is a repetitive thing that will drain them. It will drain you. It will kill you. You have to get away from that. That's why Motivate with Coach Camp is so important, because if you've noticed, I've had guests come on that have had sudden diseases. Miss Whitney Lavender comes to mind, where she ended up having to have both legs amputated from the hips down. She went down a long, arduous, difficult road, but she's positive. She's out there trying to live her life. She's going hunting now. She's running for beauty pageants while being in a wheelchair. Whitney, I hope you're watching this episode. I'm sending a shout out because you're an inspiration. And you understood that your life stood something bigger than just you. There were people that needed your energy, your positive energy in this world. I had on Miss Angela that came on, and she's talking about her terminal cancer, but she's still finding positivity in life and how she wants to spend those moments to the best of her ability. All of these things are a mindset. I could go on and on and on. I've had so many amazing guests come on here that have shared incredible survival stories or overcoming things that you would just never expect a person to be able to move past, like Mr. Justin Mansfield, who was shot by a stepfather and his brother was killed right in front of him by a stepfather. This individual has a love in his heart and a passion. And it all does tie back to the part I'm going to hit at the end of this, which is about the soul, because all three of these things have to be in balance and have to be in check in order for us to be healthy. So your mind is super, super important. You have to guard that. So how do you do that? Here's how. I'm going to give you a couple of things I do. Now, I'm not saying this is the only things. I'm just saying this is what Coach Camp does. One, be thankful. When you start to think about all the things that you could be upset about or to be depressed about, find things that you can counter with that you're thankful for. Granted, there's going to always be something in your life that you wake up and you look back on and you're like, man, I really wish I'd have done this, or I wish this hadn't happened. You know, these things might not be going on right now if those things hadn't happened. I get it, but find the positive, and that has to be intentional, sometimes more so for some than others, because some people don't have a lot of what they call, I'm going to put quotation marks on this, good luck. I get it. But you got to be positive. The attitude will ultimately dictate what takes place next, how you receive the information next. Guard your mind. Surround it with affirmative action. Go in there, and the affirmative action I'm talking about is the action of being able to be positive. Put things into your heart and your mind that are helpful, that do not create chaos in your mind. You have to have the center that you go back to. And a lot of times there are people that do different things. Some people do yoga. Me personally, I jog. I go running. I will go for a run and clear my mind. Won't listen to any music. I recently had on Truman Wallace, who talked about his injury at the age of 2, but it's the moments of silence that he finds peace. So we all have to find that thing that works for us, and it's going to be different for each individual, but go there. Intentionally create the moment. Find a way to get to that point where you can heal the mind. Because if all we do is allow those constant drum beats of the social media feeds of negative, 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 you turn on the news by chance, negative, negative, you go out into the world and everybody else around you, all these voices going into your head about negative energy, and they're telling you about how this is going to go bad and that's going to go bad and World War III is coming. Bro, how do you wake up and go through your day? I get it. How do you go through your day if that's what's happening to you? So to stay positive, to be able to put on a platform, Motivate with Coach Camp, I have to be intentional. Y'all need to know that. My life's not perfect, just like anyone. I have stuff that happens, but I get up and I'm intentional. So let's move to body. That's your mind. It's microcosm of what I could say. I could stand here for 17 hours and continue to talk about all the things that we need to set for our mind, because mindset matters for everything. Whether you're trying to achieve something or you're just trying to get past something, you've got to have the right mindset. Let's talk about your body. I think whenever a person says, well, you got to have a healthy body, people immediately can think about exercise. Well, it goes much beyond that, to be quite honest with you, and it does take intentionality. For those of you that keep up with anything that I do and you watch stuff, you see my videos I put out, or maybe just some of my Facebook posts, whatever it is, Instagram post, recently lost a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Barry Nash, 57 years old. Look, unexpected heart attack. And it was a wake-up call to even me, because in that moment, what I realized was he didn't seem sick. He didn't complain of problems. He seemed like he was okay. And suddenly he wasn't. Now, being a firefighter paramedic for so long, having been in the military, having done the stuff I've done and traveled to the places I've traveled, I am not fooled by thinking we are guaranteed 100 years on this earth. I know that every day could be our last. And what we think is what we maybe deserve or are owed, which is hopefully not someone thinking that. But if you did, you think, well, they should live to 70. They should live to 80. I get it. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. And that's not up to us sometimes. There are things that take place that are out of our control, that there's nothing we could have done. accidents, whatever, and it takes you from this earth. God has a plan, and that's going to play into the last part of this, that being the soul. But my point I'm making on the body is we have to be intentional for our own health. Mental health matters. We talked about the mind. Let's talk about the body for a second. I get it. Exercise. That is something that is easy to say we need to do, but easier to make reasons why we can't. Would you agree? I think a lot of times people sit around, they have reasoning, which quote, comes in as excuses as to why they can't exercise. My knee's bad. My back's bad. I don't have enough time. You put a million different reasons in there. People are not going to do the things that they don't really want to do if there's a reason they can get out of it. I think that's fair to say. So that takes intentionality. Doing the thing you don't want to do when you know you need to do it. Where does that come from? Self-discipline. When I go and do my speeches at schools, I talk about there are a lot of life characteristics that we must have, but the number one thing that will help all of those other things fall into place, when I'm talking about personal characteristics, is self-discipline. If you could create an environment where you make yourself do the thing you know you need to do, even though you don't want to do it, and when you know no one else would know the difference if you did or didn't, that's when you have self-discipline. Forcing yourself to do those things you know you're supposed to be doing. So exercise is one of those things. Well, when you talk about exercise, some people will immediately go to the thing they know they can't do. Coach Camp, I can't run. My knees are bad. Okay, is there another thing you could do? Could you get on a machine somewhere? Could you do some aerobics in the water? You know, there are a million different ideas that a person could use to be able to get exercise in. It's important that you do something. Moving the body will help also freshen the mind. That's why I said my go-to is running. When I'm out running, blood flow's going, oxygen's moving, all of a sudden I think more clearly. So I'm not saying that that's for everybody, but it is probably for most of you. So finding a way to get in the exercise you need to do on a regular basis is critical. Find the thing you can do and then make yourself do it all the time. Not one time, not for 2 weeks, not as a New Year's resolution. One of my favorite things I hear is, well, I'm going to start on January 1st. So for the next 6 weeks, I'm just going to pound it, man. I'm going to eat everything I can. I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to enjoy this next 5 weeks. I'm going to enjoy them. I hear that all the time. I'm going to enjoy these next 5 weeks. Whenever we're at the end of the season, you know, I'm talking about, we're in November right now, right? So, and then what happens January 1st, they're all in, they're fired up, they get going. And by January 10th, they've stopped. Consistency. It takes consistency. Remember we started out about the drum beat? This is the drum beat of your body. You have to be on point. You have to create an environment that becomes habit. If this is a lifestyle, then all of a sudden it is not something you even have to consider or think about. You know you will do it. Well, y'all know, if you follow me, 2 miles every day. 2 miles. Guaranteed, I will do 2 miles every single day. December 31st will be 4 years. I almost said 3. 4 years that I've done at least 2 miles every single day. And it will be 5 years that I've done at least 1 mile, because the first year I started out just doing at least 1 mile. I've not missed a day of running in 5 years on December 31st of this year. That's not a pat on the back. That is a model of example. Do something that you create an environment where you stay accountable to it. So the body, exercise clearly. What about our health checkups? Look, maybe you don't have health insurance. I get it. If you don't have health insurance, it makes it tougher. If you don't have a lot of money, it makes it tougher. But going and getting a physical, getting your labs done, these are all a part. This is all a part of the body, healthy body that you got to do. You got to do these things. Getting the EKG, getting all of your things tested. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. I'm not going to go there, but it can be uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? But you've got to do this stuff to stay healthy. And who do you owe it to? You owe it to your family. You owe it to your friends. And you owe it to yourself. This is the one life you get. You don't get another life. I don't know if you knew that. Death is undefeated. Every single one of us will die. In 100 years from right now, this moment, I told my wife this morning. I says, imagine every person we know on earth right now in 100 years will not be here. Think about that. We're all going to go. We're all going to go. So it's all about the quality time that we have right now. Do the things you got to do to be healthy right now. Do that. Why is that important? I'll tell you why it's so important. It's important because then you get to live the full life that you are intended to live. You have a purpose on this earth. You have a reason you are here. And the only way to be able to fully pursue that is you got to be the best version of you. So this isn't about trying to outdo someone else. It's about outdoing yourself, to be quite honest. So you've got to go get those checkups. All right. Know this. This is what plays into the part that I was going to talk about. If you watched the Cannonball episode this past Friday, this is where I was going with this is I do some stuff, right? So I pay attention to my diet. I'm not perfect, but I pay attention to my diet. I exercise every day, as y'all know. But the other part of this is knowing your family history. So this is a part of your mind, body, and soul. The body part is you got to know where you came from because that's the only way that you're going to ever know where you're going. Family history really matters. Your genetics, hopefully they're good. Mine's not. So quick story. This is going to be interesting, maybe not. Hopefully I'll stick around. When I was 30 years old, my dad had a heart attack. He was only 54. Actually, it was a little over 30. And he had a heart attack. And I was thinking to myself, my granddad had a heart attack at 51 and he died. My dad had one at 54. He lived, but he had quintuple bypass. That's all 5 arteries had to be changed out. Ultimately, cardiac is what took my dad out at the age of 67. But that came from he was able to survive that first time and then did some things to be able to put in place to be able to go further down the road. Well, for me, I knew that this could be a problem at the early 30. So I went and got checked out. So I'm on blood pressure medicine. I'm on cholesterol medicine at the age of 30. And I started exercising. And then at 32, I said, you know what? I'm going to run a marathon in all 50 states. This will take a long time and it'll keep me on point. I'll be able to exercise constantly. And so I started this pursuit, which by the way, at this point in time right now, as this comes out, I've got 35 states done. Just a few weeks back, I did my 35th state in New Mexico. So as we speak, I just finished a marathon. I run every day. My diet's not horrible. But what did we just discuss? My genetics are not great. And so when my good friend Barry died, I said, I need to do more. So I went and I got another full physical, which I do at least every year to 18 months. Got a full physical. And there's another thing you can do, and it's called a calcium score. And what a calcium score is, if you're watching this, hopefully you have this. I don't know if you're in another country right now, so I don't know how Europe works. I don't know how those other countries work, but here in America, you can get a thing called a calcium score. And basically it's $99 in this area. I think it's $99 standard. I have a friend down in Florida I just spoke to today actually, and via text, and he said it's $99 down there. So I think that's pretty standard. And you simply go in, you lay on a table, you put your hands above your head, you take a few deep breaths, they take you and they put you in this little tube. It's not quite a full tube, and they scan you back and forth, and then you come out. Takes 5 minutes. And it's basically getting a CT of your heart. It's getting a full big picture of your heart. So I get this done, I go home, and a couple days later, the nurse calls me and tells me that my calcium score is over 500. She tells me the actual number. I can't remember, 530, 540. I really don't remember the back end of it, but it was over 500. And I didn't really know what that meant, to be honest with you. As a paramedic, it's not something we check. And I could tell she had concern in her voice, but she didn't really elaborate. And she said, we need to set up a treadmill, and then you got to go follow up with your doctor, your cardiologist. So I look it up. And it turns out a calcium score over 500 means you have a lot of blockage in your arteries. It doesn't tell you where, doesn't tell you exactly how much, but the statistic that stood behind that is what really got my attention. And that is you have a 25% chance or greater of having a heart attack in the next 12 months. I pause because I want you to hear that. They're telling me I have a 25% chance right now, as I said here, or greater, of having a heart attack within the next year. So obviously I'm going to get my treadmill in a couple weeks, and then I'll be going to the cardiologist to see what our game plan is. And I'm hoping that they give me a cath so we can exactly see where these blockages are and what needs to be done next. So some people would say, well, you were watching your diet. You weren't eating horrible. I don't eat a ton of fried foods. I don't eat a ton of sweets. I don't do that. That's not even my interest. And they would say, you exercise all the time. So then this kind of proves, what's the point? No, that is not what it proves. What it proves is you got to be fully intentional and do the things you can do. Where does worry and stress come from? A lot of times it is driven from the idea of what you can't control. Well, to me, that's why you shouldn't worry and stress, personally. If you know you can't control it and you know you can't do anything about something, you shouldn't worry about it. But that's going to play into again, if you notice there's a build here, to the soul part of this. Right now, we're staying on the body part of this. So what can I control? I can control getting all my checks. So whether that's a colonoscopy, whether that's going to the dermatologist to make sure you don't have any melanoma anywhere, which, by the way, my wife going to the dermatologist like she should, they found 2 melanomas several years back, had those cut out. If you don't do the things you can do, it will turn into something you can't control. Follow me? So focus on what is it can you do something about? And if it's something you can't do anything about, you got to have faith in God. So this is where we are. On your mind, know your genetics. Do something about your diet. Do something about your exercise. And in the end, don't do it for a period of time. Don't be gimmicky about January 1st. Make this your lifestyle. When suddenly this becomes your everyday life, you don't think about it. It's just natural. So what does that mean? Know whenever you're supposed to go get checked. Find a way to go get checked. Make it a priority. If you don't make it a priority, you'll never get it done. You've got to make things a priority. So your mind, be intentional, make it a priority. Do the things that help you become healthy, whether that's reading, whether that's meditating, whatever it is. In my case, running a lot of times. Find a healthy pathway for that. Your body, follow this path of exercise, diet, knowing your family history, making it your lifestyle choice, doing the thing you have to do every day so you don't think about it. All right, drink of water. Hang on. I'm really just having a conversation with you guys. This was on my heart, man, and that's why I wanted to come to you right here, right now. It does kind of go hand in hand with the idea of not waiting until a certain time. I feel like this is important to do it right now because this is happening right now, real time, with my heart. And was it a surprise? It was a surprise. It was absolutely a surprise. But now what do? Take action. So I'm going to take action on this. And ultimately, it'll be what it will be. I don't stress about what will come. I know that one day I will die, but I am obligated to do everything I can to be as healthy as I possibly can be. I have a family, I have friends, and I have a life that I'm trying to live in a very positive way to impact as many individuals as I possibly can in a positive way before my time is gone. So hopefully I leave behind a legacy that inspires others to do the same. That's the goal. That's the goal. And I think a lot of times we probably get too caught up in thinking of what's popular or what's important. Recently, just a side note, recently my daughter was like, well, this episode or whatever didn't get so many views or so many likes. And we get caught up also in the social media side of things of relevance or a validation of how many likes did you get? How many subscribers do you have? How many views did you get? And my comment to her was, it's not about the quantity. It's about the quality. If what I am giving you hits one person's life and changes their world forever in a positive way, then that's way more worth it to me than if my message hit 1 million people and absolutely influenced no one in a positive way. It's worthless. It is worthless. I don't care about the views, the clicks, the subscribers. Sure, I encourage it because in the end, I feel like the more there are, then the more chances I have of connecting with someone in a very positive way to help them in life. That's my goal. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm shooting for. That's what my desires are. And if I had 10 million followers and the 10 million followers really didn't give a crap about what I said, it doesn't matter. The message is raunchy. It's not good. Throw it out. Throw it out, man. I want these messages to hit home. I want them to be helpful. I want my stories with my guests to be impactful. So that's what it's all about for me, which takes me to my final piece, the mind, the body, and now let's talk about the soul. I get it for everybody. It can be different. Finding your faith, your spirituality, all of these things are individual, what can I say? Choices. It's the best way to put it. It's your individual choice. And that's one of the beauties of America, is the freedom of religion. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there are countries in this world, just saying, if you're a Christian in particular, persecuted, killed even, still to this day. So I don't take that for granted. And I fully support a person to follow their own path. I have mine. If you ask me about mine, I would be glad to share it with you. My spirituality is centered on Jesus. And for me, this is a very intentional, continuous process. Because what do we shoot for? We shoot for perfection. What do we know we'll never reach? Perfection. So you constantly have to remind yourself, which requires what? I was waiting for the answer as a professor does. Intentionality. You have to be intentional. So how do you do this? Well, it goes back to the mind, the body, and the soul. Your heart is in the right place. Proverbial heart, not your actual heart. Your right heart is in the right place. Your mind will be in the right place. And so what that looks like is meditating on the word, reading the scripture, praying, trusting, having faith. Easier said than done sometimes. We react to emotion. Man, the wise guys out there, the people, I say wise guys, I mean like a wise person, not like the wise guy like I'm Chicago, but the wise person that has been able to truly control those emotional reactions will have a better response. And that's not easy for me in particular. It's probably not easy for most people because something takes place, you react to it. Something takes place, you react to it. It's the reflection that we often get brought back to reality and we're like, man, I should have calmed down or I should have thought about this differently. I wish I would have seen this. And that is something it's a process. You got to pray for it. You got to focus on it because if you don't, then ultimately you end up making a lot of those same repetitive mistakes. So I'm just saying, when your soul is right and you're spiritually fixated and you have faith, because that's what it ultimately takes for all these things that I just talked about that you can't control, that you have faith that the thing is going to happen that is God's will. Everything else makes more sense. Now, I'm not telling you how you should live your life in a lot of ways. I am telling you, though, if you focus on your mind in a positive way, if you focus on your body in a positive way, and you focus on your spirituality in a positive way, your life will be better. I have full faith in that. This is not one of those moments where I'm saying, point my finger at you saying, you should do this, you should do that. I'm telling you, if you do these things, those things will be a better life for you. That's what it is for me. I know me, I have to be intentional. I have to be proactive and I have to stay alert. And it's easy to slip away from that. It's easy to get caught up in a moment. It's easy to feel like you're a victim. Understand you can be a victim of a circumstance, but you don't have to stay that. What defines the next chapter is what you do next. That is just real talk. It's motivational talk, but it's real talk. I've lived it time and time again. And the other piece of this that I wanted to put in there is simple, and that is trusting the process. And the process, sometimes we get caught up in thinking it should be our process. And this goes hand in hand with the soul part. It's not our process, it's God's process, and it's in His timing. And that's easier said than done for a lot of us. I get it, because in a moment, when we're living that moment, it can feel drastic, it can feel overwhelming, it can feel like that the world is against you. But if we give it time and we pray about it and we have faith in that, you will see more often than not the benefit of that moment. It's easier said than done. I know I've said that several times already. And when I listen back to these things, I get tired of hearing myself say the same dang thing over and over. I'm not trying to do that, but it's just true. It's true. And it's been, man, so many times that I've lived in a moment and I'm like, I did everything right. I was following the rules of life, if you will. How could this have happened? How could this thing have taken place? And I could give you a million examples. One of them is my house build, just struggling to get the house built that I built over on the Ponderosa. There were so many hiccups and fallbacks and moments that didn't work out, so much so that my wife eventually said, maybe it's not meant to be. But in my heart, when I'd pray about it, I knew it was the right thing. I knew it was the right thing I had to do. But the problem with it was it wasn't the right timing. And when it's not the right timing and it's not your timing, it's God's timing, sometimes we can get caught up feeling like it should have already happened. And we got to be patient. And that's one of those attributes that we need in life. We got to have patience. We got to have understanding. All of these things lead to hope. And that's how I'm going to end this message. When we have faith and we have spirituality, it gives us hope. And I think that's what drives us from one day to the next, gives us a desire to get up and move forward and be fruitful. And if you're intentional to those things and you're thinking about how you're going to be a healthier person with your mind, your body, and your soul, it will give you hope. And even if today is really dark, it's really bad, you're going through some tough stuff right now. Maybe you've lost a loved one. Maybe your marriage is falling apart. Maybe financially you're struggling. Maybe you have health problems. There could be a lot of things that are swarming you, and maybe you feel all of those things that I just said. And I'm sorry that you're going through that right now. If you're watching this and you're like, man, you're hitting the nail on the head, Coach Camp. All those things are hitting me. I'm going to ask you right now, wake up every day with the intentional approach of your mind, your body, and your soul, and you're going to do something for each of those each and every day. And if that means that you meditate for 15 minutes, you exercise for 15 minutes, and you pray and you get centered and you read the Bible, whatever it is that you need to do for the next 15 minutes, you just dedicate those timelines every single day. You will find that drumbeat that I talk about, instead of it constantly being a negative thing, suddenly you will feel that positive come back to you, and you'll start to see things, why things happen. It'll be more clear. You'll understand your path. You'll understand your purpose. And then that's whenever you're able to have the biggest impact. And that's why it's so important that I get on this microphone and I give these messages, because that's coming from my heart. That's the message that I know I'm supposed to give. I feel blessed to be able to do this. We're in America where I have opportunities to do these things, and it can go worldwide. And again, it's not about the quantity. It is always about the quality. So if you're touched by these messages, I love to hear back from you. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. When I started out, I didn't think I was worthy. And then as I went down the road, I realized we're all worthy. We all have that. We just have to stay humble. Our voice does matter, because you never know when the message that you're giving is something somebody else out there truly, truly needed in that moment. So I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you stuck around the whole time. This is about a 40-minute message, which is about typical for a solo episode. I came in a little lower energy because I really wanted the message to be heard. Hopefully you did hear the message and you received it, and you're going to find out how these things that I mentioned can apply to you, and you'll have a better approach to things. And I would love to hear from you. If you have something that you'd be like, hey, Coach Camp, guess what? After that, I did this, this, and this, and now my life is this, and we're in a better place. And I'd love to hear that. And if you're in a tough spot right now, I want you to know my heart goes out to you. Keep fighting. Keep plugging away. Somebody out there's watching. They need your strength. Whether or not you realize it, as weak as you may feel, they need your strength. All right. So at this time, I'm going to ask you, please go to my website, motivatewithcoachcamp.com. Continue to tune in. Subscribe to my YouTube. And until next time, Coach Camp out.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want, and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up, so